All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakateh Hawa, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. All right. The name of this one is Raids, Roundups, and Insurrection. And pretty much what you're looking in front of you at is, some so-called immigrants, Jakes, rounded up, with this ICE, the so-called immigrants that are detained. And the reason why, through the spirit, I named it Raids, Roundups, and Insurrections, which is a title that came to me when I was reading this article that I want to go through real quick and share with you brothers out there, because Elder Pastor coined 2020 the year of prophecy. Today is the 5th, January 5th, and 2 days ago marked the 100th anniversary of something called the Palmer Raids. Now, what are the Palmer Raids? 100 years ago, 4,000 Americans in a single night were rounded up and caged for disagreeing with the president. This was dated yesterday, January 4th, 2020, year of prophecy. And you see so-called Uncle Sam and people that were jailed. Now, these are Americans that were jailed for disagreeing with the president. And this happened 100 years ago, a couple of days ago, 100 years and 2 days ago. And today, with the way things are going, people talk about the Constitution this, the Constitution that. The Constitution don't mean shit to the government, because the government is not owned by the American people. It's owned by the international bankers, the Amalekites. And they have an agenda, and they're pushing their agenda through. And this is why you see the things happening that are happening right now. It says 100 years ago, on January 3rd, 1920, Americans woke up to discover just how little their own government regarded the cherished Bill of Rights. During the night, some 4,000 of their fellow citizens were rounded up and jailed for what amounted, in most cases, to no good reason at all, and no due process either. And they don't give a damn what it is. And notice it was in January 3rd, which is one of the coldest months of the year. And we've been telling you for a while that these devils, when they come in, to get you at the hour where most people are sleeping, anywhere from 4 o'clock or so. They're coming. They could be coming in the middle of winter, when it's cold as fuck outside. They don't give a damn, because their goal is to make it as uncomfortable for someone as possible, especially someone that disagrees with their views and their agenda. It says, welcome to the story of the Palmer Raids, named for their instigator, Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. Though largely forgotten today, they shouldn't be. They constituted a horrific, shameful episode in American history, one of the lowest moments for liberty since King George III quartered troops in private homes. The terror during the night was January 2nd through 3rd, 1920, shocked and frightened many citizens. In her 1971 book, America's Reign of Terror, World War I, the Red Scare, and the Palmer Raids, Roberta Strauss Fulfigt wrote, "Terror is not just a body count. Terror exists when a person can be sentenced to years in prison for an idle remark." You see? And this is why they have all this legislation out. They got legislation out to protect Amalek. They got legislation out like the Patriot Act. Now, you got to remember that the legislation they got out now is far worse than it was back 100 years ago. This is why we read in Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 1, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed." So pretty much these unrighteous decrees are laws that they have in the books that are unlawful and that are unrighteous and that go against other principles that they had so-called established. And beyond all of that, it goes beyond the truth and righteousness of the scriptures. So it says, when people are pulled out of their beds and arrested, when 4,000 persons are seized in a single night, and when arrests and searches are made without warrants, moreover, for each person sent to prison for his views, for his views. And many people have had dreams and visions of the future, of mass murder, of people being rounded up, and we've been talking about, the concentration camps and the martial law and the FEMA troops, and people laugh because we've been speaking about it for years and it hasn't really fully happened, but we're coming to that point now to where everything is going to come to a head. And this is where we're heading to right now. It says many others were silenced, see? And their goal is what? If they can't make you look stupid, if they can't paint a picture of you to the public as being a lunatic or crazy, what they do is to silence a person by any means necessary, And that's why we tell you, brothers out there, and some of you few sisters, that they're coming to get physical. No, Esau is not playing anymore. The devil has come down having great wrath because they know that they have but a short time. And this is why we've been telling brothers and sisters for the longest that these days are coming. These days were coming, and they're fast approaching. And I didn't know anything about the Palmer raids until tonight. Something just told me to go, on my, I usually just do a check. I try to, if the spirit allows, I try to check once a day certain water holes that I go to get information. And I just happened, to get home from camp not too long ago, and I just happened to be browsing through, and I ran across this article. So I said, let me do a quick lesson on it. It says the author amply documents the government insensitivity to civil liberties during this period, its frequently brutality and callousness, and the personal grief that ensued. And this is why you had individuals like Maya Amschel Bauer saying that, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes the laws. Because if you control the money, what do you think? The person that controls the money, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to control the money but not control everything else? No, if they control the money, they control the laws, they control everything that goes on within that society. And their whole thing is to make things as comfortable as possible for the average person. Let's go to Micah 2. And 1, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. So they have this power because the earth is given into their hand. And this is why the scriptures say that when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. So we're at the point where people are mourning, and they're mourning even more and more as each day goes by. And these devils are not slowing down. They're not stopping. Their new world order or their new world agenda is full steam ahead. And they're not going to stop until they accomplish it. But they're not going to get to accomplish it, although in their mind they feel that they are. So the Lord is going to put a stop to them when they get so far. It says the targets of the Palmer raids were radicals and leftists deemed by the Wilson administration to be hostile to American values. See? So these individuals that they arrested or rounded up, the 4,000 they rounded up that night, were deemed as by Wilson, which is President Wilson and his administration, to be hostile to American values. So whoever's running the policies, which is the so-called international bankers, anyone that goes against their agenda, guess what? They're going to demonize them and round them up. Because that's why you have something called the red list, the blue list, and in some cases yellow or green list. Whichever one they bring out. But the red list is immediate termination. They said these are the people we can't change. Blue list is also termination, but you may have individuals there that they might be able to change. And then the yellow and green list pretty much are just those that are going to be re-educated. That they can say, oh, these guys they're just bumbling idiots, so we can re-educate them. It says, ironically, none of those arrested had done anywhere near as much harm to those values as the man living in the White House. And why is that? Who was that? Woodrow Wilson. Why? Because he introduced the third central bank into America, which they fought to keep the other two out. And the third central bank of America was the Federal Reserve, which took control of the American people's money when, according to the Constitution, Congress has the right to print its own money. But now you took the power away from Congress and the so-called American government and gave it over into the hands of a private corporation as the Federal Reserve. Now they get to print the money and charge you, exorbitant amount of money. And this is why the debt is so fucked up. It says, arguably the worst of the country's 45 presidents. More on that in the Palmer raids after some background. I didn't read any more of this. I just wanted to hit the points. All right, let's get a night of terror. Allow me to digress for a moment on the debts case because it brings to mind a current controversy. President Trump was impeached. I just wanted to get this to the Palmer raids. Okay. He pointed a few. Kind curl. Hostile Europe, 1918. Wilson, 1918. Meantime, March 19. Wilson. All right, pretty much we get the gist of it. Let's see. He pointed to a few bombings as evidence of that the sedition problem was huge and required decisive action. January 2nd, 1920, when the largest and most aggressive batch of Palmer raids was carried out, was a night of terror. About 4,000 arrests across 23 states, often without legitimate search warrants and with the arrestees frequently tossed into makeshift jails and in substandard conditions. Does that ring a bell? Is this not substandard conditions? Is this not a makeshift jail? All this is just a bunch of fence just put up and a bunch of people just hurled together. It's gonna get bad, man. These guys that have been playing games, now they're gonna be talking about, yeah, well, you guys ain't talking about this, man. We've been talking about this. You're gonna tell us what we haven't been talking about. We've been talking about this for the longest. The spirit of Yahweh Bashem Al Shai has been having us talk about this even before the YouTube era. So I don't know what the hell these guys are talking about. But this is what happens, People are gonna jump ship at the last minute, acting like they was always down for the cause. But the Lord knows. That's why He said, "Oh Lord, look, we taught in your streets. We prophesied in your name. We cast out devils in your name." The Lord said, "Gonna tell them, Yahweh gonna say, look, man, depart from me. I never knew you. Do that work iniquity." So going back, it says, leftist and leftist organizations were the targets, but even visitors to their meetings halls were caught up in the dragnet. So pretty much this is why you have a lot of these different groups out there, Israelite groups, that take people's social security numbers, they take their slave names, they take down their address, where they live, where they work, how much money they make, and all of that. You see, but we don't, here in Great Millstone, we don't never ask any brothers for any personal information. Unless we know the brother and, maybe the brother has to send me something or I might have to send him something or something along those lines. But that's very rare. But these other, and that's why like you have different groups out there outside of the Israelites that they want to put you on their mailing list. They want to send you stuff. It's not because they want to send you stuff and they're so concerned about you. It's because they're trying to get every bit of information that they can to give it back to the government. So when the time comes, they'll know exactly where to go and who to get. It says, no friend of liberty then or now. The Washington Post opined, there is no time to waste on hair splitting over infringement of liberties. See, so we ain't gonna waste no time about no infringement of liberties. We got to get these people. These people are terrorists. Back then they weren't being called terrorists, but today that's the term that's out. Back in the 60s and 70s, it was communism. or communists. A few smaller raids were conducted, but nothing on the scale of January 2nd and 3rd. And what's going to happen this time is going to make all of this pale in comparison, because they're going to be rounding up hundreds of thousands, millions of people. It says Palmer thought he would ride the Red Scare into the White House, but he lost his bid for the Democratic Party's nomination later that year. Meantime, the courts largely nullified his dirty work. By June 1920, the raids were history. In the fall, the Democrats lost big as Republican Warren Harding ushered in an era of normalcy. It's hard to find any lingering trace of the subversive work the Palmer raids were ostensibly intended to combat. Thousands were arrested when actual crimes were committed by a relative few. Certainly none of the arrested Americans gave us progressive income tax or a central bank or violation of free speech and due process. It was Woodrow Wilson and his friends who gave us all that and much more mischief. Let us remember the Palmer raids and the administration that carried them out as black marks against American liberty, hopefully never to be repeated. And it's going to be repeated again because it's in the scriptures. Let's go to Jeremiah 30:7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be delivered out of it. And this is what Esau is not counting on. They're not counting on the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai stepping in and helping us, in this time. Daniel 12:1, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book, meaning the elect. So there's going to be a time of this main roundup. There's going to be a time where Esau is going to go buck wild, the devil coming down having great wrath because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. They're going to come down heavy-handed, and they're going to put off all pity. Scriptures say that they don't bear the sword in vain. 2 Ezra 16:68, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. And what is that great multitude, or that burning wrath of a great multitude? It's a burning wrath. You get mad, you get angry, then you have choler, and you have wrath, and you have burning wrath. So this multitude that's coming is going to be a burning wrath. They're going to have the devil in them. Fierce. They're going to come fierce with Satan in them. No mercy, nothing. It says, and shall take away certain of you and feed you being idle. What does it mean being idle? Being still, being shut in. Such as something like along this, those internment camps that they had for the Japanese during World War II in America. Japanese citizens that were born in America, that had American birth certificates, that had American citizenship, they locked them up. It says, and feed you being idle with things offered unto idols. It says, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and in trodden underfoot. Because a lot of these jakes, they're going to be wondering, well, what can we do to make it better? And a lot of them going to take the chip just to get out of this condition. They're gonna submit to Esau, and what's going to happen? They're going to be had in derision and in reproach and in shame and trodden underfoot, because they're still going to get destroyed. It says, for there shall be in every place, and in the next cities, it's not going to just be 23 states. It's not just going to be 4,000 people rounded up. It's going to be millions throughout the world. It says, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. And mainly the Israelites are going to be the ones that's going to be caught up in this mess. Now you're going to have militias and different other people that will get caught up into this, but the main ones they're coming for are the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, because they're not going to have a bit or an ounce of pity in them, because they're going to have the straight up spiritual demon Satan on them, doing the bidding of their master, the international bankers, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, because these devils have been promised that they were going to live it up. If they bring this in, them and their families will be taken care of. It says, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. So it doesn't matter if you own your house, you have property, whatever the case is, they don't give a shit. They're coming for your ass. It says, then shall they be known who are my chosen. Why? Because the Lord is going to put a protective shield over his elect, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. But some Israelite brothers and sisters will get caught up in this situation. But in the long run, the Lord will deliver it. What does it say in Revelation 2:10? Some of you shall be cast into prison 10 days that you may be tried. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Why? Because you're going to have Jacob's trouble, but we shall be delivered. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. You know, so pretty much this happened 100 years ago, where 100 years ago, 4,000 Americans in a single night were rounded up and caged for disagreeing with the president. And don't you best believe this is coming back, but far worse than this. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say Shalom. They shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of. So it doesn't matter if you own your house, you have property, whatever the case is, they don't give a shit. They're coming for your ass. It says, then shall they be known who are my chosen. Why? Because the Lord is going to put a protective shield over his elect, and they shall